But as a creative, a lot of us don't even know that we need to create that structure for ourselves. I think a lot of creatives just assume that that structure is either just going to like fall out of the air, fall into their lap, be created out of thin air, but that's not how it works. You literally have to create that structure for yourself, or you get the experience that a lot of creatives that I talk to have where they literally just feel like they're floating through the day. They don't really know what they need to get done at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. They don't feel like they had any real momentum in their career. They don't know if they're going anywhere. And that's because, baby girl, you ain't got no structure, babe. I'm Charla Lauriston. I've been a TV writer for almost a decade, but it wasn't that long ago that quitting my day job and moving to Hollywood was nothing but a pipe dream. After lots of failures, many mistakes, and many lessons learned, I've now written for 7 TV shows, 2 features, and sold 3 TV pilots. I've done all this through imposter syndrome, burnout, and with zero roadmap. On the Working Writer podcast, I pull back the curtain on breaking in and teach screenwriters and creatives how to thrive both personally and professionally. Without further ado, let's get to work. What's up, party people? Welcome to another episode of the Working Writer podcast. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I don't know what's up with this British accent, but it definitely feels like it's here to stay. I feel like I'm in London. I feel like I'm British. I'm loving it. It's lit. So let's just keep it going without judgment on your part. Thank you so much. But in all seriousness, guys, thank you so much for joining me, my beautiful writers and creatives. I'm coming at you with an episode on productivity because I feel that this is one of the biggest struggles for us creatives. It has certainly been one of my biggest struggles. So I want to do a 2-part series on productivity. This is the first of those 2 episodes. This first episode is going to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more about structure. And the second episode is going to be more psychological. It's going to be about the psychology behind being productive. So let's just jump right into it without any further ado. Let's talk about being a freaking productive creative. So I think that one of the things that really hinders a lot of creatives when it comes to productivity is that they don't realize that they have to create their own structure. So, what do I mean by that? For a lot of creatives, myself included, we come from a 9 to 5, maybe even corporate background. And when we come from a regular day job, a regular schmegular job, girl, structure is created for us. We're told when to come in. We're told what to do during the day. We're told when to take a break. We're told when to leave. So when that structure is created for us, at the end of the day, you're not feeling guilty like, oh, I wasn't productive today, because you have a sense of closure. You know exactly what you were supposed to do that day. And if you didn't get it done that day, you get it done the next day because you have clear directives, you have clear tasks, you know exactly what you need to do. But as a creative, a lot of us don't even know that we need to create that structure for ourselves. I think a lot of creatives just assume that that structure is either just going to like fall out of the air, fall into their lap, be created out of thin air, but that's not how it works. You literally have to create that structure for yourself, or you get the experience that a lot of creatives that I talk to have where they literally just feel like they're floating through the day. They don't really know what they need to get done at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. They don't feel like they had any real momentum in their career. They don't know if they're going anywhere. And that's because, baby girl, you ain't got no structure, babe. You didn't decide what you needed to get done. You didn't decide what the directives were for the year. So I think the thing that's super important first and foremost is to sort of put your 9 to 5 hat on for your creative work. Create that structure for yourself as a creative. Decide what times am I going to be working on my creative work. Decide what needs to get done to fill up your creative um, body of work, so that you have tasks that need to get done during the day, so that you can decide, hey, this needs to get done today, this needs to get done this week, this needs to get done this month, so that I can blank, so that I can submit to this film festival, so that I can submit to this writing competition, so that I can blah, blah, blah. So I think the number one thing when it comes to productivity as a creative is actually sitting down and creating that structure for yourself. So in this episode, I'm going to break down how to actually create that structure for yourself. And I want to start with something that is I feel like it's one of the most important things that you can do, which is literally decide why you're doing this, and where this work is going. So in a lot of, corporate settings, you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. Either you're doing something to create revenue, you're doing something to satisfy customers, you know why you're doing something. But I think a lot of creatives, because we are now working for ourselves, we're now having to create that structure and that meaning for ourselves. We don't actually sit down and think about, like, hey, why am I writing this pilot? What am I going to do with this pilot when I'm done with it? And I feel like, in order to I feel like the foundation of your structure has to be a why. Why are you doing this? Where is this work going when it's over? If you are struggling with productivity and you don't have a straight up idea of what you're going to be doing with your project when you're done with it, why you're doing your project, then it's going to be really hard to feel like you want to do it, or to feel like you want to create structure around it in the first place, or to get any momentum behind it. So here's what to do. So I think first and foremost, decide, why am I doing this project? Is it because I want to move my career forward? Is it because I want to build my body of work? Is it because I want to build up my skills as a creative? Is it because I want to use this to submit? Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Decide why you're doing it. And then after you've decided why you're doing it, decide what you're going to do with it when you're done with it, because what you're going to do with it when you're done with it is going to determine the structure and determine the timeline that you have to actually do it. That's another thing. When you don't decide, hey, what am I going to do with this project when I'm done with it, then that means that this project could literally go on forever, which is totally fine for some projects. But I think for a lot of people, they don't want something to go on forever. They want to see a tangible finished result within a reasonable amount of time. And the way to do that is just decide where your project is going when you're done with it. Does that mean that you have a film festival that it's going to be going to in 6 months? Does that mean that you have a writing competition, or there's a manager who has asked to see your work, and you told him that you can get it to him in a month, him or her, that you can get it to them in a month? As soon as you have that target date, as soon as you have that future on the calendar that you can pin on, now you can work backwards. Now you have a sense of momentum. You have something pulling you and pushing you to a finish line, instead of, I'm just going to write this script and whatever. I don't know why. And I don't have any reason to write it. I don't have anywhere to send it at the end. As soon as you decide why and where it's going, you automatically have a foundation for your structure. So that's the first part of it. So after you have, like, I have a reason why I'm doing this, I have a date, I have a future, this thing has a trajectory, this thing has a timeline, this thing has momentum. Now you're starting to have to actually break the project down. And I think that one of the easiest ways to break your project down is to first start with something called a SMART goal. SMART goal stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So, why is a SMART goal so helpful? It's really because a SMART goal helps you break down the goal in a way that makes it really clear to see whether or not you're going to be able to achieve that goal. The more specific your goal is, let's say your goal is to write a pilot. Is it a half hour pilot? Is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy? Is it a feature? I mean, is it a drama? Is your goal actually to write a feature? Is it to write a short? Is it to write a web series? Let's get super specific on what it is exactly that you want to write. And then it's measurable. If you're writing a half hour comedy pilot, then you know that that's going to be 30 pages. That's a great way to measure, right? Numbers are a great way to measure your goal. How long is this thing? How many pages do I have to write? Or if you're writing a book, how many words do I have to write? How many chapters do I have to write? This is how you're starting to break down your goals bit by bit when you start using that SMART goal structure there. So specific, it is a half hour pilot. It's 30 pages or 30 to 40 pages. It's achievable. It's relevant to your goal of either building your portfolio or submitting to some sort of competition or um, getting you a job, whatever the relevance of that job, of that goal is. And then it's also time bound. I want to write this within 6 months or within the deadline for this or blah, blah, blah. So as soon as you put that SMART goal together, you automatically have broken down the goal in a way that makes it a lot more easy to see how you would achieve it because it becomes a lot more broken down for you. So, what is your creative goal currently? Is it a SMART goal? Is it super specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? Is it time bound? If at least some of these things aren't present in your goal, then it probably means that it's a little bit too vague. It doesn't really have a structure to it. It's not really broken down in a way that's actually achievable. And that's probably why you're feeling like you're not productive, you're not getting anything done. So after you have smartened up your goal, like, broken down your goal in a way that it is specific, it is measurable, it is achievable, it's relevant, it's time bound. Now that you have your SMART goals, it's time to actually plan your week. It's time to actually break down that goal into tasks that you're going to be finishing on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis. So, how many times have you started your week without actually sitting down and deciding what creative goals you want to attack this week? What tasks you have to do to reach those goals? So now you have the beginnings of your structure, right? You have your why, what you're going to be doing with your project, by when. You have broken down your goals into SMART goals so that it's easier to transform that goal into tasks that you can get done on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. So, how do we actually transform those goals into tasks that we get done on a weekly and monthly and yearly basis? It's about planning your week. So, how many times have you started the week and you didn't actually sit down and decide what you wanted to get done for your creative work for that week? It's Friday, you realize, oh, I didn't even work on my pilot. I didn't work on my script. I didn't do this. And it's probably because you didn't actually sit down at the beginning of the week and plan your week. Decide what tasks need to get done that week so that you can finish that creative project by that deadline that you set for yourself. You need to sit down at the beginning of every week and plan your week. Decide in a measurable way, what am I going to get done towards my creative goals this week? So let's say the plan is to write that half hour pilot that you want to write. All right. You've already decided that you have a reason why you're writing it. You have a deadline in the future for it. So you know that this week you need to get at least 2 scenes done if you want to finish your pilot by the deadline that you've set for yourself or the deadline that is set. When you sit down and you plan your week in a very measurable way, you know that you need to get 5 scenes done this week or 500 words written this week or whatever it is, then you're able to actually break the goal down on a daily basis. If you know that you need to get 5 scenes done this week, then that means that you can potentially write a scene a day. Or maybe you write a scene or maybe you write 2 scenes every other day so that by Friday you have your 5 scenes done. You understand what I'm saying? It's like basically breaking down your project in a very measurable way so that you know that by the end of the week you have a certain amount of your script done so that you can reach your goal by a very specific time. After you've planned your week, the last part of this productivity process is to review your week. Take a moment to see if you actually accomplished the things that you set out to do that week. Where are you in the timeline? Are you ahead of schedule? Are you behind schedule? Do you need to do more next week? Can you chill a little bit next week? Can you work on some other things next week because surpassed your goal or achieved your goal? When you make sure to review your week, then you're making sure that you're staying on schedule. You're making sure that the methods that you're using are actually working, that you're moving towards your goal. And I think the most important aspect of reviewing your week is not judging yourself. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people, they'll review their week and they'll feel so bad if they didn't achieve their goal for that week. They didn't finish the 5 scenes. As a matter of fact, they didn't get a single scene done because of whatever happened. And what I want to tell you right now is that the purpose of review is not to judge yourself. It's not to put yourself down. It's to literally objectively look at what was I able to get done and why was I able to get it done or why wasn't I able to get it done? What is holding me back from getting it done? What is helping me get it done? What could help me get it done? That is the purpose of review. It's not to beat yourself up because you didn't get certain things done or to feel bad about yourself. The fact that you are intentional about your work, that you're on top of your work, that you're working towards something, that's what's important. It's the intent behind it. It's not about, it's the fact that you put your best foot forward and you tried in the first place. It's not about blowing it out of the water every single time and being this robot every single time. The fact that you even have these SMART goals written, that you even have a why, that you have a deadline in the future that you're aiming for, that's all fantastic. And being really positive about just putting one foot in front of the other is going to be really important when it comes to your longevity as a creative. So to summarize episode 1 on how to be productive as a creative, it's about creating your own structure. It's about having a why. It's about having a defined deadline in the future for your work. Always knowing what you're going to be doing with your work when you're done with it, where your work is going, so that you have a momentum pushing you to the finish line. It's about having SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. It's about planning your week, taking the time on a weekly basis to be intentional about what you're going to get done that week, breaking the task down so that you can get them done. And it's about reviewing your week at the end of the week so that you can be aware and stay on top of what's actually getting done, what's not getting done, why is it not getting done, why is it getting done, what you can do better. So I hope that this episode was helpful. Remember that you're doing your best, that this is not about being a robot. This is not about being as productive as a corporation. This is about being as productive as you can be. It's about measuring your own productivity. It's about measuring yourself against yourself and not against other people. It's not about comparing your productivity to other people's productivity. It's about how productive can you be? It's about how much can you push yourself to put out your own work. That's all I've got for now. I hope that was helpful. Until next time, get out there, get to work. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, share, or leave a comment for the algorithm gods.